Hello again, book friends. Welcome to Valerie Geary's Reading Nook, where we get cozy and chat about books, storytelling, and our unwieldy TBR piles. After an extended break, I am finally back and excited to bring you new bookish videos. If you've been following the saga, you know that I had some editing software problems back in October, some issues with the editing software that I was using, and it made it nearly impossible for me to edit videos. So I took some time off figuring I could try and figure out the editing software problem and get it fixed and start making videos again. But instead, I participated in National Novel Writing Month. I finished writing a new novel. I took a 3-week road trip to California, and now here we are 2 months later, and I still haven't figured out my video editing software issues. But if you're watching this, I must have figured out enough to where I can do like a simple edit. So I think that's kind of what's going to be happening from here on out with this channel. I think I'm going to be waiting on the reading vlogs and like the little free library tours and stuff, and just doing more of this talking head kind of video. So bear with me. Hopefully there won't be a lot of long pauses or ums or interruptions. And hopefully these videos will still be fun to watch and maybe give you some good ideas for what to read next. Since we are nearing the end of the year, I thought now would be a great time to share the books that I am very much anticipating that are coming out in 2022. I'm going to be focusing on mystery, thrillers, and suspense, which is my favorite genre. I picked out a list of 10 books that I am really looking forward to reading in 2022. They are in no particular order. They are not in order of publication date. Simply, it's just chaos, murder, and mayhem. 10 books in the mystery thriller genre that are coming out in 2022 that I am excited about reading. Are you ready? Let's dig in. The first book is The Maid by Nita Prose, and this is kind of being compared to Knives Out, or like if you're missing Knives Out and you want that kind of style, that kind of tone, then The Maid by Nita Prose is for you. It is about an eccentric hotel maid who kind of has awkward social skills, and she doesn't really fit in very well, but she discovers an infamous and very wealthy guest dead in his bed at this hotel, and because of her kind of different personality, she becomes the prime suspect in the murder and has to, prove her innocence. So that sounds like a pretty fun mystery. I'm excited. And the cover is fantastic. Next up is Under Lock and Skeleton Key by Gigi Pandian. This is a locked room mystery set in a house where there's hidden rooms and secret staircases. I think the main character returns to her hometown in California to work on her father's architectural business. They put in fun staircases and book nooks and all kinds of interesting things into houses to make them more fun and spooky. And while she's working on one of these houses, they find a dead body in the wall, and I believe she might be the suspect, or her father might be the suspect, and there's maybe some magical elements in here too. It just sounds like a fun, fantastic book. I am so excited about this one. The next one that I'm looking forward to in 2022 is a cozy mystery. It is book 2 in the Tita Rosie's Kitchen mystery series. The book is Homicide and Hollow Hollow by Mia P. Manansala, and this is the follow-up to Arsenic and Adobo, which I read this year in 2021 and loved. I fell in love with these characters. I fell in love with the family dynamic and the friendship elements, and then also the mystery was just fun and playful, and the Filipino food that was described in the book was sounded so good. So this is a fun series, and I am looking forward to getting book 2 in this series as soon as I can get my grubby little hands on it. So in the first book, in Arsenic and Adobo, the main character returns to her hometown. That's what they all do in cozy mysteries. I love it. I am a sucker for returning to your hometown. So she returns there after a breakup, and she's trying to help save her family's struggling restaurant business, and a food blogger, I believe he's a very nasty food blogger, he winds up dead in the restaurant, in the family restaurant, and the family's accused of murdering him, and murder, mayhem, chaos. So book 2 is still revolving around this town and this restaurant, and the main character is trying to open her own cafe at this point, but there's like a beauty pageant that comes to town, and one of the judges is found dead, and her cousin is accused of the murder. So that sounds like fun. Next up is an author that I am really coming to love her books and just kind of get excited about them. The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. She has kind of this supernatural mystery elements to her book. She likes to layer on past secrets with present trauma, as well as supernatural elements, and just kind of a really creepy, spooky vibe. So this book is set in Oregon in 1977, and well, it's like a dual timeline. So there's 1977, two men who are seemingly randomly murdered, and there's a weird note left with them. So then you flash forward to the future, maybe 20 years or something like that, and a true crime blogger has the opportunity to interview the woman who was acquitted of murdering these two men. So she was accused, but then acquitted. And so the true crime blogger goes to this woman's house to interview her, and there's some really kind of spooky things that happen. That's all I know about the book. The cover looks great. I love this author, so I'm really excited about it. The next one is a debut novel, and I believe I heard about this from a librarian friend of mine. It's called The Hacienda by Isabel Canas, and I don't really know too much about it, but it does sound really interesting. It's been described as Mexican Gothic meets Rebecca, both of which I have loved, and both of which are varying levels of weird and spooky and gothic and unsettling. So it sounds like it could be a good combination. It is set in the aftermath of the Mexican War of Independence. There's a remote house with some sinister hauntings and a woman who's kind of trapped in its clutches and trying to get out. So I'm really interested in checking that one out. The next one up is another favorite author of mine, Jennifer McMahon. Now, last year, what year are we even in? It's like the last week of 2021. So in October, I think I did a reading vlog where I read The Drowning Kind by Jennifer McMahon, and I spent the entire video calling her by the wrong name. I was saying Jennifer McMahon because that's how it was spelled, and so my brain rushed ahead of my mouth, but it is actually Jennifer McMahon, and she is a favorite author of mine. She does spooky, supernatural thrillers and horrors so well. I love how she incorporates really complicated characters and layers and elements that you don't always find in horror and thriller books. And so she has a new one coming out in 2022 called The Children of the Hill, and it is loosely inspired on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I'm sold. I don't need to know anything else about this book. But if you want to know something else about this book, I'll tell you. Okay, so again, we have like a past secrets, present day trauma kind of situation happening where a young girl is like, she sets up this game with her brother and her sister where they set up something called a monster club where they're searching for monsters and pretending to kill them. I'm not entirely sure, but it sounds fantastic. Sounds like something I would have done as a child. Then in the future, she is running a podcast called Monsters Among Us, and she is investigating the disappearance of a girl and rumors of a monster roaming through this town. And so she has some experience with monsters, and I don't know. It sounds spooky and it sounds great, and it's Jennifer McMahon, so I am in. The next book I am excited about in 2022 is The Book of the Most Precious Substance by Sara Gran. Now, Sara Gran wrote one of my favorite female detective series. I guess it doesn't have to be female. It's just one of my favorite detective series, period. She wrote the Claire DeWitt series. There's 3 books in this series, and it is strange and darkly funny, wickedly smart series about this complicated private detective and like the mysteries that she's solving, and there's also a thread that goes throughout of like her learning about her history. I loved this series. I loved the complicated nature of Sara Gran's characters, and so when I saw she had a new book coming out in 2022, I got excited. It is not a book from the Claire DeWitt series. So the Claire DeWitt series is over. This is a completely separate standalone book, but it does sound great. It is about a former novelist who experiences some tragedy and then kind of resigns herself to a dull life as a bookseller, a rare bookseller. But then she gets a lead on a book that is rumored to be one of the most powerful books in the world, and it's a manual on sex magic or how to have good sex or like magic sex or like the best sex of your life. I don't know, something like that, and everybody wants this book, and so the main character sets off to find it and to see if she can kind of like maybe spice up her life, or at least maybe get rich off of this book. And I think it's like, the question is like, how far will a person go to get what they want? Next one up is Blood Sugar by Sascha Rothchild. This, I believe, is a debut novel, and the cover, of course, is fantastic. And according to the description, the book opens with the main character, Ruby, in a police interrogation room, and the police are asking her questions about her dead husband. They believe she has murdered her husband. Now, here's the twist. Ruby has murdered people before, but she did not murder her husband. So she is innocent of her husband's murder, but she is not innocent. That sounds like a perfect setup for a disaster of a book, like a good disaster, the best kind of disaster. It kind of reminds me of My Sister the Serial Killer, which I loved. I really like the idea of following a person who has murdered other people but is not guilty of the one murder that people know or think that she has done. So I'm intrigued by the premise of this, and I'm looking forward to reading it. In a completely different vein is Last Call at the Nightingale by Katharine Schellman, and this is set in 1924 New York, like Jazz Age, Prohibition era, and it is about a young woman who was working at a dress shop by day, kind of living the boring life. At night, she goes down to a secret dance club where there's illegal liquor and everyone's dancing the Charleston, but then a dead body shows up. You can't get away from these dead bodies. Dead body is found in the club, and then danger begins to follow this woman around. This appears to be the first book in a mystery series set in the Jazz Age, and I am excited about this book. A while ago, I read The Paragon Hotel by Lyndsay Faye, and this was set in like 1920s Prohibition era, and it was mwah, I love that book. I recommend it to everybody I encounter. It is one of my top recommended books, so if you haven't read that, go read The Paragon Hotel by Lyndsay Faye. And I have been looking for a similar style or similar tone, something set in that era that has kind of a mystery element to it and like feminist themes and stuff. And so I'm really hoping that Last Call at the Nightingale will have what I am looking for. So I'm excited to check that one out. The final book that I am excited to read in 2022 is Breathless by Amy McCulloch. And this is a wilderness thriller. A struggling journalist is invited to join an expedition to climb one of the world's tallest mountains and interview the acclaimed mountaineer who is trying to summit this mountain. And I guess when the climb starts, a lot of strange, weird things start happening. Like things go missing, and a strange note is left warning them that there's a murderer on their climbing team. And I don't know if any of you have ever climbed mountains, but that would be terrifying. I've only climbed one mountain. It was a very small mountain. It was a bluebird day. The danger levels were, low to medium. As far as I know, there were no murderers on this climb. I love this kind of book, like the idea of a climbing adventure, an outdoor adventure mixed with a mystery thriller. That sounds fantastic. The main character is climbing up this mountain with these people, and there's a murderer among them. And that just sounds like a lot of high octane danger. So those are my 10 highly anticipated mystery, thriller, and suspense books for 2022. I'm sure there will be other under-the-radar books that come along and snatch my attention as the months go on, but these are the 10 that I've been hearing people talk about, 10 that I've seen on other readers' lists, and 10 that I'm just so excited about, and I'm going to be looking for them at the library, at my bookstores, and maybe even pre-ordering a few of them. Do any of these catch your attention? Let me know in the comments. I would also love to know your 2022 highly anticipated reads. I don't want to miss any good ones. I'm looking forward to reading these, and I hope that some of these look exciting to you. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.